interview questions and how to answer them more importantly. This is going to be a video on an interviewer asking you questions in your interview and the best possible way to answer them. Now, we've all been in an interview before. Some have been good, some have been bad, some have been kind of indifferent. So hopefully this will give you some takeaways on how you can be a bit more proactive in your answers and how you can excel in that next interview to get you your dream job. My name's Terry. I'm the founder and owner of Daniel Ernest Consulting. We are a recruitment business and we provide the best talent in the market. As I've got over 15 years experience, I've been in many scenarios when I've been speaking with various candidates before and after an interview, and they always tell me what has worked and what hasn't worked for them, and it's allowed me to tweak my interview prep with them. So I'm going to share some of the basic questions that a hiring authority will ask you, the interviewee, and how you can answer them to the interviewer. So let's get started. The first question an interviewer will ask you is, tell me about a time you were successful, or tell me about a time you were successful within the team. Now, if they're asking you this question personally, obviously talk it about more personal. You need to be talking about for example, if I was answering that question is, I led the team or I was part of a team, and talk about your tasks, talk about your role, talk about what you did, talk about the good bits about it. But if the interviewer is asking you a question about how you did well in a team, remember you need to also talk about the team as well, because the hiring authority could be checking your communication skills and seeing if you pick up that well, and also if you are a team player or a solo type of person. So please be mindful of that question. When someone asks you about working in a team or when you're successful in a team, still use that I did this and I was responsible for that, but also mention your team. Talk about don't have to go into too much detail, but just talk about the team dynamics, how many people were in the team, what their job function was, and how you worked well together and why you worked well together. So hopefully that has answered that question for you. Another question an interviewer would ask is, what would co-workers say about you, or what would your family say about you? So this is so important to do the prep before, because you don't want to be I've not thought about that. You need to think about it before the interview. So what would your co-workers think about you? Pause for a second, actually think about that question. If you don't have an answer for that, it means that you're underprepared for the interview, and this is where most people fall down in the interview. It's not because you don't have the skills to do the job, it's literally poor preparation. So a way you can answer that is, how would they think about you, work, or at least think about you, or they may make it more personal, what would your family think about you, is be honest to an extent. Don't use the cliches of hardworking, enthusiastic. You can relate that into some of your, what you would call soft skills. So if you are someone who is hardworking, yes, you can use that, but give an example. Say I'm hardworking because of X project or Y scenario, I did this and went above and beyond. But also give some other information about work that you've done. So it will give the interviewer a bit more, what's the best word to say? A bit more insight to yourself as a person. So you need to be quite delicate with this question, because people can overshare, and that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to overshare of, I can be quite annoying, or I've been late a few times, people call me, and you don't want to use that kind of derogatory terms to yourself. So keep it light and just say, it's a good question. And always, if you're unsure about that question, or if you need time to think, ask it, or should I say answer it with, that's a really good question. I was actually thinking about this myself. You don't want to use that term too much, but the reason behind you saying that is it's giving you at least an extra 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds to process the question. So going back to that question is, what would co-workers think about you? That's a really good question. What would co-workers think about me? I was actually thinking about this on preparation of this interview. So what co-workers would think about me, I believe, is I'm honest. The reason why I'm honest is because when we're working with each other, I give constructive feedback. Now, the feedback that I give to people isn't, brutal or direct. It's constructive to help them. So I'm honest in that respect, but I also help them, encourage them and empower them to be the best version of themselves. So I guess with that question as well, people may also say that I'm someone who can help motivate a team, motivate the staff, etc., etc. So I'm sure you've got the gist of that question. Another one, which is quite a common one, is where do you see yourself in X amount of years? So it could be where do you see yourself in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Again, it depends on the kind of company. If it's just a typical company where you're just gonna get a job, be honest with them and basically say to them, I don't know where I would be in the next 5 years. Your company says you are X and Y and growing. That means that I want to climb up the career ladder, and I want to excel in whichever division I'm doing. But again, if you're unsure of that, I would always say in interviews, obviously don't be too brutally honest, but you need to show your personality side as well coming through. So a few ways you can answer that is, well, the first thing I want to do is excel in the job that I'm doing, and I want to be the best and do the best in this role that I've been interviewed for. Then I'll be able to step back and see where I'm going to be in the next 5 years. Again, it depends what kind of role you're interviewing for. If it's obviously an executive role, a corporate role, then of course you're going to go down the, yes, I'm looking to move up the company structure. I see I'm coming in as a senior consultant. After the senior consultant position, I know I want to be a principal consultant. After principal consultant, I know I want to get to an executive or an associate partner. After the associate partner goes to partner. So again, it really depends what company you're interviewing for. So the best thing to do to answer that question is study the organisation chart, so you can obviously give them the appropriate answer for the role that you are interviewing for. Another question could be is, tell me about a time you worked with a difficult person. Now, this probably will come up in most interviews, because we always deal with difficult people. So simple question, or sorry, I should say simple answers is yes, good question. And again, be honest. If you're not dealt with difficult people in your organisation, just literally tell them, just say, because the way the company's structure is set up, and our focus is more about care, collaboration, etc. We never really get into that difficult period or that difficult head clash. And the reason for this is we believe in prevention over cure. So before it gets to the difficult point, we always have a conversation, maybe to the side, and we discuss our pros and cons for the, why they want to do it that way or why I want to do it my way. So I wouldn't say I've had a difficult time, because we always preempt the negativity before the negativity happens. So that's if you're not dealt with a situation like that. Again, if you have dealt with a negative situation with a negative co-worker, again, you are being interviewed, so you need to obviously remain professional, and you don't want to speak bad or ill of your current company or your past company, but put in some words where it's not going to seem like you're just going to be name calling that company, because the company that you are interviewing for, the hiring authorities could be thinking, wow, what are they going to say about us if they move within 5-10 years, whatever? Are they going to be, again, saying negative things about our business? So you need to be mindful about what you're saying. So it can actually be a double-edged sword, that question. So just be mindful of how you answer that. So if you have dealt with someone that's been quite negative, always keep it in a positive fashion and talk about having a conversation with that person, asking for them to explain from their point of view, and asking questions around that, and ask. So you've got enough data to answer back to the person and say, I agree with some points, why you disagree with what I'm saying, or why we're not getting on this project, but also I have my opinions as well. We're both professionals. Let's focus on what makes business sense. So if your proposal makes better business sense than mine, we'll go with that. If mine makes better business sense, then we'll go with that. And you can obviously take it to a team, and you can obviously vote on whatever disagreement you have, if it is obviously business related, not personal. Another question is definitely always asked in an interview is describe your leadership style. So what are you like as a leader? Again, you don't want to use this too many times, but if you need to think about something, you can always kind of repeat the question, or you can say, oh, yeah, great question. Leadership style, that is part of my role. So you're giving yourself, again, another 4, 5, 6 seconds for your brain to switch on and ask about your leadership style. Hopefully you're someone who is, again, someone about inspiration, empowering, helping others, not letting anybody sink. But again, you need to be honest with your leadership style, because if you're not, and if it's a company, if you are someone like me who is more about care, collaboration, helping others, being kind, but you're interviewing for a company that is very, very cutthroat, very salesy, and doesn't really care about the staff. As long as you're winning, as long as you're selling or doing well, that's all the people that care about, then it's not going to fit in with your moral compass. So if you try and bend your truth to fit in with them, you'll probably last maybe 3-6 months and realize it's not for you. And that's one of the reasons why so many people leave a role. They kind of tell a story or a lie or a false personality to fit into the role. So yes, I know you may be struggling looking for a job and desperate to get out of your current role, but you're gonna make the same mistakes by putting on this fake personality and not being the true, authentic self that you are. So my best answer to that, if you are someone who is hard and very, black and white, be honest, but say that I am focusing and I'm getting better at the softer side, the softer skills side, and listening to people, being more empathetic. How does your company run in that way? So you don't want to overshare too much, but you give tiny bites of how you work and tell the interviewer that you're working on the opposite side to balance yourself out, and then you throw the question back to the hiring authority and say, how does it work in your organization? Are you more on the X side or the Y side? And then when they answer that question, then you can tweak your answer to fit in with what they're saying, but again, being your true authentic self. So if it didn't completely fit with your moral compass, it's a case of, right, well, for me, I would be doing it differently. I'm not too sure if that would fit with how your company works, but for my style of management and leadership goes this way. If you're happy to adapt, then that's obviously your call. These are just some, I could go on and on and on. These are some basic questions that always get brought up in the when you're being interviewed. Hopefully that has been informative for you. I am going to start doing more videos like this on YouTube, so please remember to like and share this video, and I'll be giving you more hints and tips around recruitment, around consulting, and just about skilling up. So have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.